How do you get people to like you, follow you, and trust you, and most of all, want to buy from you? We're talking about influence. And it's something that's not talked about enough, especially in business and leadership. But in this episode, we're going to cover the 3 levels of influential leadership. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to become the type of leader people naturally want to follow, trust, and buy from. Let's start by understanding what influence is and what influence is not. Now, influence is not manipulation. It's not tricking people to get them to do what you want them to do. But real influence is about becoming the type of person that others naturally want to follow and trust. It's that simple. And here's what most people don't understand. It's like you can have the best business idea, you can have the best offer, you can have the best systems, the best skills, the best strategy. You can be the best in the world at whatever you want to be the best in the world at. But without influence, you won't make it very far in your leadership, in your business, with your family, your kids, whatever, right? And see, the problem with influence today is people are more concerned with how it looks versus who they are. They base their influence off of their likes, their followers, their subscribers, instead of actually becoming a person of influence through their values, their actions, their character, who they are as a person. Look, I hate to break it to you. You do realize that people pay for followers, right? People pay for subscribers, right? It doesn't mean that they're influential. Just because they have all of these likes, followers, subscribers, whatever you want to call it, it does not mean that they are influential. Now, don't get me wrong. Perception has its place, and perception does matter. But it doesn't serve as the foundation of influence. Who you are serves as the foundation of influence, right? And that's what we're talking about today. 3 levels of influential leadership so that you can transform yourself into someone that people actively want to support, follow, and trust. Now, the first level of influential leadership is standards. To be influential, you must have standards. Think about it. It's simple. If you can't get yourself to do what you say you're going to do, if you don't have a certain level of trust within yourself, why would anyone trust you to lead them? If you don't have trust yourself, why would anyone follow your standards? You can't influence others if you can't influence yourself first, period. Right? The law of energy says what? Energy is not created nor destroyed. It's just transferred from one to another. Why is that important? That is important because we pick up on energy. We read energy. We determine if someone is who they are based on their energy. We determine if somebody's in a good mood, if they're authentic, if they're real, what kind of day they're having. We are constantly picking up on people's energy. Let me ask you this. Have you ever asked someone, hey man, how's your day going? And they give you I'm talking about the most depressing, sad, pitiful, good that they can find. I'm talking about like they went past a whole bunch of really good goods to find the most depressing good to give that to you. Like they had to actually search for it and find it, right? Now, when they say that to you, do you think they're having a good day? No, you don't think they're having a good day, right? Why? Because of their energy. When you don't keep your word to yourself, what you do is you violate your standards. And guess what? People pick up on that energy. I remember a few years ago, working out with this guy, right? He was like, man, Lou, we need to get a workout in. So, we went to the gym. Now, I don't know if you know this, but when you go to the gym and you're about to do an exercise, you typically always set how many reps you're going to do. Whether it's 10, whether it's 12, sometimes you'll range it. Sometimes you'll say 8 to 10. Sometimes you'll say 10 to 12, 12 to 15, whatever. But you always set your rep range for the exercise you're going to do. Right now, I don't know if this is just me or what, but if I'm working out with somebody, especially for the first time, every now and then, not on every set, but every now and then, I'll check in to count their reps to make sure they're actually finishing them, right? Because for me, it lets you know what type of person you're working out with. Because if you're going to lie about how many reps you did, like you'll lie about anything. And look, get this, you don't have to finish all your reps right there. Like, let's say if you were going to 10, you only got to 8, right? You stop at 8, you put it down, you take a rest, you go back and get your 2. It's that simple, right? But anyway, so exercising with this guy, and I'm counting his reps, and I know he didn't get the 10, right? So I asked him, I was like, hey, bro, you get all 10? Yeah, I got all 10. Now, I already knew he didn't get 10, all right? But just the way he said, yeah, I got all 10, that confirmed my the question to my answer. I mean, the answer to my question, right? And it was all because of his energy. He didn't say it confidently, right? Energy is a powerful thing. Now, what most people don't understand is that the brain follows evidence, right? So anytime you say something that doesn't line up with what you actually do, what it does is creates a disconnect within yourself. And that shows up in the form of energy in our communication, in our tone, in our eye contact, our body language, right? This is why you have people that can read other people, right? In interrogation rooms. This is why they bring in interrogators who study body language, right? Because energy will always tell the story. But guess what? The reverse is also true. When you do keep your word to yourself, when you are who you say you are, right? When you live by the principles that you say you live by, and you honor the code that you say you honor, guess what? That energy is felt too, right? Now, let's break down what it actually looks like, right, in influential leadership, right? Standards show up in 3 places, right? First is going to be your personal standards. Very simple. Do you keep your word to yourself, right? This is the foundation of everything. Because if you can't keep your word to yourself, you're not going to be able to keep your word to others. And people are going to pick up that you're not going to have any influence over others. Like if you're out of shape, but you're telling someone, man, you need to lose some weight. If you're not strong, but you're telling someone, man, you need to get strong, guess what? You're not going to have no influence over that person at all. So your personal standards is the foundation. That is the most important when it comes to standards, right? The second way it shows up is in your external standards, right? This is, are you keeping your word to other people? This is the standard that other people get to experience from you, right? In your leadership, in your business. Are you paying them on time? When you tell them that you're going to meet them somewhere, do you actually show up and meet them? When you say you're going to be somewhere at a certain time, are you there at a certain time? And if you're not going to make it on a certain time, do you call them and say, hey, I'm running a few minutes late. I'll be there in 5 minutes. That's simple, right? The trust that you build with others by keeping your word to others. External standards. And the last is your thinking standards, right? This is how it's like, can you think for yourself? Are you an independent thinker? Right? Or do you just follow with what everybody else says? What sounds good, right? Like somebody says something that sounds good over here. Oh, yeah, that sounds good. So I'm going to go over there. And then somebody says the complete opposite. So you go on the other side. Yeah, that sounds good. So I'm going to go over there. Right? Are you an independent thinker? Can you think for yourself? You know, I remember years ago working with this guy. And I won't necessarily call him a leader, right? But he was in a leadership position, right? And every time it came to making decisions, he would always ask like, hey, so what do you think? So what do you think about this? So I'm thinking about doing this. So what do you think about that? Right? And for me, it's like, what you asking me for? Right? You're the leader. You're the one with the vision. You have more context than me. Like, I don't know if we're going up, down, left, right, which is another problem because as a leader, you should be constantly communicating the vision. Every day, every week. People should know where we're going. But for me, it's like, I don't know where we're going, right? You haven't communicated anything. So since you haven't communicated anything, I don't have the context to be able to make the decision. or to say my opinion that's actually going to make sense and move the business forward or whatever you're trying to achieve, right? And when you don't think for yourself as a leader, when you can't make decisions for yourself, it lowers your status as a leader. Like personally, I'd much rather follow someone that makes fast decisions and then picks up the mistakes, like fixes whatever needs to be fixed and keeps it moving, than someone who is afraid to make decisions. I'd much rather follow that person, right? But your standards, you got your personal standards, your external standards, your thinking standards, right? Standards are the first level of influence. And without them, like, you won't be influencing many people, right? It's plain and simple. So that's level one. Next level, we have status. Now, what is status? Status is how people perceive your value, your capability, right? Your credibility based on what they see visually, right? Are you putting yourself in a position of authority, of power, of strength? Do you have tangible things that people want? Are you seen as someone that is worth listening to, right? Because the reality is people like people with status. They just do. Whether it's money, whether it's fitness, success, whether you're attractive, you have charisma, right? We are wired to pay attention to status signals. Now, is this vain and superficial? Absolutely. Right? Do people go overboard trying to look the part without being the part? Absolutely. Right? Should status be the ultimate judge of someone's character and their level of intelligence? Absolutely not. It should not. But guess what? It's the reality. So what are you going to do about it? You can fight against it and complain about it, that it's not fair, or you can accept it and use it to your advantage. Perception matters in influence. Perception matters a lot. You know, I remember working at this gym like years ago as a personal trainer, right? And there was this guy, he was a trainer. And when I say this guy was sharp, like this guy knew his stuff. Like he had been training for like 16 years. I think he had the most certifications in everybody. And not only did he have the certifications, because there are a lot of people that have the certifications that still don't know, right, what they're doing. But this guy, when I say he knew his stuff, like he knew his stuff. Like he was on top of it. And his only downfall was he wasn't in the best shape. Right? As a personal trainer, which is actually pretty common. Right? Some trainers don't even look, most trainers that I see don't even look like trainers. But anyway, like he was not in the best shape. Right? Now there was another trainer who was on the opposite side. Right? He had a lot of experience and he had a lot of certifications. But this guy, he didn't really know too much, right? When they actually came to training. But guess what? He was in shape. And since he was in shape, he had more clients than the other guy. Simply because of status. Right? Now in psychology, they call this the halo effect. Now the halo effect is a cognitive bias, right? Where one positive trait causes others to assume that you're going to be competent and credible and trustworthy, right, in other areas too, right? Because you're positive in one area, they're going to assume that you're positive in other areas too. Like for an example, like if you're fit, right, you dress well, you look nice, right, you cleaned up good, right? People are going to unconsciously assume that you're disciplined, that you're intelligent, that you're successful. Right? If you can articulate yourself and communicate confidently, guess what they're going to assume? That you're competent. You're trustworthy. They're going to assume that you know your stuff. One positive trait creates think about like an angel, right? How they have the halo. One positive trait creates the halo that makes people perceive that all the other traits are going to be positive too. Not saying that they are, but it's a subconscious bias that we have as humans. Now, the reverse is also true, right? It's called the horn effect, right? Think about two horns: Satan, satanic, the devil, right? If you show up out of shape, sloppy, low energy, lacking communication, right? No joy, no life. People are going to unconsciously assume that, guess what? You're that way across the board. You can be the smartest guy. You can be the most brilliant woman. You can be a genius, right? And that first negative impression is going to create doubt about everything else. Now, it's not saying that you can't overcome that. But it's like, why would you even want to start in the hole? Right? You can start in the hole, you can start ahead. Why would you want to start in the hole? Right? So when someone meets you for the first time, their brain is playing a game of 21 questions. And within seconds, literally seconds, they're asking, like, is this person worth listening to? Like, are they somebody that I can trust? Are they really going to get me the result? Are they really in it for themselves, or are they really about helping me? Right? And they base these answers off of what they observe visually. Right? Things like your appearance, your energy, your communication, how you carry yourself. Right? The results that you have achieved. Right? Fair or not. I don't know which way you want to look at it. It's just the way it is. Right? You can complain about it. Like I said, you can complain about it, or you can use it to your advantage. Either way. This is why I focus so heavily on fitness for entrepreneurs. Not because I'm a fitness coach, because I'm not. Right? But I care about helping business owners grow and maximize their business by improving themselves. Right? Because I believe, like, your body is the most powerful status signal that you have. Right? When you're in shape, people assume that you have discipline, that you have focus, that you have energy, that you have commitment, that you can keep your word to yourself, you have self-control. People naturally assume that when you're in shape. But guess what? When you're out of shape, people question your ability to execute subconsciously. Right? It's not something that's blatantly something that they're saying. Right? But they're saying these things to themselves subconsciously. And status is not just about physical appearance. I also want to make that clear too. Status is not just about physical appearance, but it's about the way you communicate, the friends and people you're connected to, right? Your knowledge and your intelligence, your achievements, right? All these things contribute to the overall status of how you're perceived by others. Now, we'll also add that a lot of people has taken this concept and taken it overboard, right? Especially in the era of social media, right? Where they're concerned more about how it looks versus who they are in real life. Social media has done that, right? They'll rent luxury cars. They'll rent fake private jet studios, take a bunch of pictures so they can flex for social. I remember Rick Ross talking about somebody paid him $20,000 to take pictures with his car for 2 hours. Right? They got about 6 months of content of just taking pictures in different outfits with the car, so they can stretch it out for social media. It's crazy. I even heard this play where they were saying, like, in California, this was heavy. Like, 4 people would go in on buying a Lamborghini, right? Because they couldn't afford their Lamborghini themselves. They would go in on buying a Lamborghini, and each of them would take it a week out of the month. And they just split the monthly payment. So instead of paying the however much it may be for the month, they split it by 4. Right? But they only did this to raise their standard in society. Now this, in my opinion, this may create like a short-term status signal, right? But eventually, the bottom's going to fall out. Always does, right? Like, we want to build long-term influence and leadership. That's the goal. Something that's going to last beyond our lives. Now, how do we do that? Right? You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to look like a bodybuilder. All you have to do is one thing, right? All you need to do is be moving in the right direction, demonstrating progress and demonstrating growth. That's it. Getting in better shape. If you lose 20 pounds, guess what? People notice. Dressing better. You start dressing up, getting real clean, people will notice. You start communicating better, more confidently. Guess what? People will notice. You start to achieve some visible results, like writing a book, running a marathon. Guess what? People will notice, right? Growing your friend circle, going to seminars, right? Associating with people at a higher level. People are going to notice, right? Growing in status is about showing progress in the right direction, not creating a false reality, which so many people are doing nowadays, right? But status matters, perception matters. It's just about doing it in the right way. Progress is the most powerful way to build your influence and to build your status to become more influential as a leader, right? That's number 2, status. Last one, number 3, we have service. And this is where most people fail, right? Because you can have all the standards in the world. You can have massive status. But if people sense that you're in it only for yourself, guess what? Your influence is dead. Gone. Won't have zero, right? People follow leaders with their servant's heart. Leaders who genuinely care about people. Right? Leaders who serve, not just serve themselves, right? They have a vision that is bigger than themselves, right? It's the law of reciprocity. When you genuinely want to see someone else win, when you genuinely, there we go, genuinely help them win, add value, go beyond, right? They naturally feel a pull to support you. Right? To trust you, to follow you. They'll buy from you, right? They'll connect you with others. And this is honestly my favorite out of the 3, right? Because this is something that can't be fake long, right? People can smell fake from a mile away. And if you're only focused on serving yourself and other people not getting anything in return, guess what? That's manipulation. And people can sense that. Let me let you in on something. People are not stupid. People are not dumb. They will know when you are trying to manipulate them. Right? This is why it pays to become an influential person through your values, through your actions, through your character. Right? And this is the pillar that separates those who really want influence and those who really want the influential leadership versus those who just want what it looks like to have influential leadership. This is separated right here. Service, right? Servant leadership means that you're in service to something bigger than yourself. You're thinking about things bigger than yourself. You're leading from a place that is bigger than yourself. You care about the people you lead, right? You invest into their success, right? You're willing to sacrifice for their growth, right? Zig Ziglar has this famous quote that says, you don't build a business, but you build the people, and the people build the business. Right? I'm going to say that again. You don't build the business, but you build the people, and the people build the business. Doesn't matter what line of business you're in, there's always going to be people everywhere. You're going to have to interact with people some way, somehow. So you better get used to serving people if you want to be an effective leader with influence. When people sense that you genuinely care about them winning, and not just what them winning can do for you, but you actually want to see them win, right? Because you don't have anything a part of it. They become loyal to you. They trust you. They support you. Right? They buy from you. They show up to your events. They show up online for you. They show up when you need somebody. Why? Because you have shown up for them. Influence. Right? It's a give and take. Being a leader is not just about you, but being a leader is about serving other people. That's what it's about. Bottom line. And that's the 3 levels of influential leadership. You have standards. If you don't have those, you won't make it very far. You got to have status. You got to have the things that people want. That's going to draw the people to you, right? Perception. And then you have to have service, most importantly. You have to be in it for the people, not for yourself. But I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Wealth Brand. If so, please make sure you share. Make sure you subscribe. Share this with somebody you feel might be able to get value from this one. And I'll catch y'all in the next one.